Paranormal escapades. It's a good play on words, isn't it? That would entail, of course, traveling, going from location to location. A lot of research teams that are based in the Midwest, like where I'm from, Central Ohio, stay within just the region or just the state itself. I actually branch out. The entire team and myself, we branch out. We spend a lot of time in the Carolinas, Tennessee, West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan. We've been as far northeast as Vermont and New York, and we've been as far south as of out of the country, that is, going through Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. And when I went to the Cayman Islands, I was looking specifically for a book, a compilation, a series of books, or a book consisting of local folklore and mythology and haunted hotspots. And each place I went to asking for this, they just kind of turned their nose up at me and laughed as if they thought I was a madman. But I did luck out and find this one bookstore that had some local folklore, but not anything necessarily pertaining to ghost stories, other than a few ghost ships, ghost pirate ships, things like that. Uh,
Yeah,
other
those are always popular in the island.
Oh, they always are. Yeah, I've yet to see a ghost ship, unfortunately. But where I live in Ohio, there's not a massive body of water other than just a few
Well,
ponds.
you have to get closer to the river.
Yeah, the
Um,
the river has huge catfish, big enough to eat a man.
true
Hmm.
statement. But as far as wherever you go asking about stuff paranormal, they'll always look at you funny at first. Then when they realize there's nobody else around, they'll start talking to you.
Yeah, they usually do. I'll hand them a business card. I'll start talking to them, asking more and more questions about the local area itself, not necessarily focusing in on paranormal activity, but trying to, I guess, butter them up. What is
Yeah,
that static?
it works. Hello.
Hello? I'm
I'm still
getting,
here.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm getting a lot of
Yeah,
static.
yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of noise fish around here. Yeah.
Okay, tell you what. Let me see if I can get a song going, and we'll try to fix that because it's annoying. So we'll be back in just a
All
moment.
right.
Uh, find the music. Yeah, here's one that's appropriate.
What could be causing that?
Yeah.
There has to be. They know I'm on the air right now. They're going to try to foil
All
it.
right, let me.
I have quit everything, so it's not me. It's just really.
I don't know where it is, but let's reinitiate this call,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll start it. Okay?
All right.
Yeah. You want us to hang up? Want us all to hang
Yeah,
up?
go ahead. Yeah,
Sure.
everybody hang up. I'll call you back.
All right. How's that?
Bizarre. Oh, guys, I know what it is. It's that. It may have something to do with that solar storm.
Ah, yes. It was supposed to be severe yesterday.
Yeah, and today, I think. It sounds like some sort of natural thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds to me like it's low throughput, but
Yeah.
we have what we have.
Yeah, I think it may have something to do with that. Let me see if I can find some information about it real quick.
That, and we were supposed to have a an asteroid the size of a bus passing by Earth late last night.
Well, it was a busload of aliens, and we're starting to sound like them.
We'll have to call Hubble up.
Wow, this almost sounds. It almost sounds electric. I mean, it sounds electrical, whatever it is. So,
Who knows?
wow.
Well, anyway, um, one took over the line is playing, so that might sound
Okay.
appropriate when we come back.
Now, what was the song that you chose?
One took over the line.
Oh, one took over.
Virtually.
I thought it was "Don't Fear the Reaper."
No, no, not going to do that one. Not yet. I refuse. Almost a cheap trick, but the only one that came up was surrendered. I'm not doing that either. Anyway, we're going to come back right about now. All right, and we're back. I don't know how we're sounding out there in radio land, but it's sounding a little garbled here. Give us a little feedback in the chat room, if you will. Anyway, Neal, we were talking about the cooperative nature of people wherever you go as an eventuality.
Yeah, you normally have to size the people up when you go in because not everyone's going to react the same way. A lot of times when you're in a more of a rural area, they're willing to talk about local legends, folklore, haunted hotspots, locations. A lot of them have been exploited by TV shows, and they've been a little slighted because of that and jaded as a result. For example, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, they were a little miffed by a few TV appearances that they had had, and the way the town and the people were depicted. So when I arrived in 2008, May of 2008, and did the research and working on my book at that point in time, and staying in the Low Hotel, they felt more comfortable around me because when I mentioned that I'm originally from Southern Ohio, they thought of me as a local guy, so they were more than willing to roll out the red carpet. But not every area is going to be like that, of course.
Right. I was in southern Texas, down below San Antonio. In fact, it was the Elmendorf, Texas, the same little town where somebody shot the supposed chupacabra that looked an awful lot like a mangy coyote.
Oh, the mangy coyote, yes.
Yeah. And so I started asking around. Of course, around Elmendorf is like one store. That's it. That's all they have. That is the business district. It's one little bitty mom and pop store with a single gas pump.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked around, made sure nobody was watching or listening, and then they started talking to me about it. They started dragging out promotional materials, pictures and flyers and crap that made up. And of course, I went by the place where they shot this thing and did the dutiful thing. And then I was there on a day job at an industrial plant and staying in a local motel, local 10 miles from the plant. So in the evenings, I didn't have a lot to do. So the maintenance man's walking around there looking bored. So I started up a conversation with him about local legends and stuff. And he had the ghost story that permeates the world of a school bus stopped on the railroad track and a train hit it and killed all the kids.
Yeah. Hello?
Where you go, you hear some version of that tape.
Yeah, it seems to be every town, every village or small city has like a lost boy bridge or a crybaby tunnel or a crybaby bridge. Every small town area has that same type of legend. And you usually have to handle those kind of questions with kid gloves because not everyone's going to answer it the same way or be willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of that down here in Chillicothe, Ohio. Rick, you and I have talked about the area where I live because you know a lot about the history of Ohio. And Marietta, Ohio, for example, Chillicothe being Native American for gathering of chiefs within this valley. A lot of Indian mounds were here that were desecrated, and it's released a lot of spiritual animosity.
Yeah. What's this? Anyway, the nature of people is strange when it comes to talking about it. Or it also before they'll talk to you, they want to make sure that there's nobody else that's listening.
Right.
So.
That's for sure. When they hear that I'm an author, and when I present it to them like that I'm wanting to write about this, and I try to get to know the person on an individual basis. They love that. Like, oh, this guy's a writer. He's reputable. And if you just come in with cameras and start asking questions, they hate that.
Yeah, they do. Um, the other place that I ran into that, the opposite end of that scale, is when you go to some of these conferences,
Mm-hmm.
you can't get them to stop talking about this stuff. You know, I'm into hidden history and a little bit into, you know, observing people.
Yeah.
And everybody that shows up at some of these conferences, all of them have this need to talk about everything all at once.
It's
it doesn't
overkill.
work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is that strange sound like a dog lapping on a water bowl? Do you hear that?
No, I don't hear
Yeah.
that one. But
Yeah, what you're talking about, some sort of radiation sound, in my opinion. But
yeah, interestingly enough, Mike sounds fairly clear. So,
yeah, I think the further north you go, and look at the internet, it looks like this radiation storm is affecting the, like, further north on the continent worse than it is down in my neck of the woods or down in Jackal's neck of the woods. So,
interesting.
It seems to be gone now.
very weird.
I expect a visit from the Men in Black any minute.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, okay, so you've got a number of books out. Some are ghosty, most are ghosty.
Most are ghosty.
Other stuff.
The first one that I had have written, it was in 2008, published through Lulu Press, out of Charlotte, North Carolina, titled "Paranormal Chronicles: Tales of Horror, Humor, and the Absolutely Strange." That was a compilation. It was just me testing the water, series of short stories to see if maybe I could sell a few books here and there. I'm now selling, well, last month I sold 12 in Japan. Not that I flew to Japan to sell them, but they're making their way into the Asian market. People from the United Kingdom are ordering them, people I don't know. It's just word of mouth traveling through my YouTube channel and through a few people who know me that know people elsewhere. And then when I post on their wall, they see the link and then boom, they order the book. The second book that I released was just a local effort for Chillicothe to help increase tourism for the ghost walk that we have every year. It's titled Haunted Chillicothe. It's all about, back to the original part of this conversation, local legends, horror, not horror houses, but tales of legends. And, well, actually, one of the stories is about an old horror house, which is now a candy shop. It used to be a brothel. It's called the Lloyd Sweet Shop, ironically. But that's one of the stories in Haunted Chillicothe. The third book I've yet to have out. It is complete, but I do not have it released yet. And after talking to Brian here, I may be going through his channels to get that out for the general public to read. It's titled Haunted Holidays, and it's all a collection of short stories revolving around the Halloween to New Year's Eve season, ghostly encounters, angelic encounters, unexplained phenomenon. And the fourth book that I'm currently working on and in the process of writing everything together is titled The Pencil Stick Chronicles, which is all about a local town called Pencil Sticks, which is loosely based on Chillicothe, and bizarre phenomenon that takes place in and around the area, the region itself. I'm basically tying the whole Tri-County area into this story concept and taking my entire team and putting us in the persona of junior high age and creating our team from that age on up. And as we age, the adventures get more and more intense until we reach our senior year, of course. And then much like Hogwarts, everyone goes on from there and they become master wizards. Not that we become wizards in the book, per se, but it deals with coming of age.
Let's see, who was the guy? Bill Eckert, right? Was it Bill Eckert? Mike? Anyway, he's telling the tale of growing up investigating weird stuff. But
Yeah, what was his name? Bill.
Tamper.
Bill Camper?
Tamper.
Tamper.
No, his name is Bill Electric.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Bill Electric. I'm like...
The name of the book is Tamper.
Tamper. Okay.
But yeah, it's kind of like that. It's written as a novel, but a lot of the drug use is based on real life. Anyway.
Drug use.
But it was definitely a drug-related accident. But the premise is kind of cool. I've just become acquainted with a kid here in the county who's like 13, 14 years old, avid ghost hunter type, and is organizing his own little ghost hunts. When I say little, he's got like 10, 12 people involved because somebody has to drive because he's only 13.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I had that same issue when I was young. I did a lot of walking and bicycling. And when I was that age, you could bike anywhere and not have to worry about being abducted or having anyone run into you because they're texting.
Yeah. No, if they were running into you, it was because they were just not paying attention.
It looks like Brian's jumping off.
Perhaps. We'll get him back after a while, maybe.
Okay. I didn't know if he found me that dull, he's like, forget it. I'm not sitting on this for an hour.
The Chillicothe Marietta area, which is kind of a long stretch there, has a lot of anomalous stuff, not all of it related to ghosty stuff.
Right. A lot of
Marietta
UFO sightings.
Was the territorial capital founded by Arthur St. Clair. And you know somebody, I forget her name now. Is it Lisa? Leah?
It's Lynn Stravanot.
Lynn.
Yeah,
I knew it was an L, but I couldn't pull it out.
She is the director of the Haunted Marietta, Hidden Marietta website and the Ghost Walk that they do. And she's a fountain of information.
I've got to get over there one of these days. I've been through it, but didn't have time to stop and couldn't stop anyway. But
yeah, I'll give you her contact information if you'd like that.
Yeah. The other town, I forget now exactly how you pronounce it, Coshocton?
Coshocton, yes.
That one's got a lot of weird history, too.
Yeah, a lot of people citing ghost trains, ghost lights, allegedly having banshee sightings.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you usually had banshee hearings, but...
Yeah. I hear that they're not pleasant sights.
No, they're not. From what I've been told, I myself have never...
Neal, did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you.
Neal?
Hello? Okay, we're gone again. I don't know what happened. Hello? Yeah, we're back. We're back now.
Cool. And I wonder what that was.
I'm not sure. The entire call
Neal,
just collapsed.
I told Rick you mentioned that banshee one time too many.
That's what made the call drop?
Yeah, probably.
I said something about her not being attractive, and then the call dropped.
Oh, that's possible. They have the ability to go directly into phone lines and transfer energy, so anyone's game.
Wrinkle a brick, whatever.
I hate it when they brickle your... The whole Ohio Valley, which is this is where I segue into my book. The whole Ohio Valley has its share of anomalies. It's not just ghosts and stuff, but also a lot of hidden history stuff.
You've
which is
got
why I want to go to Marietta.
you've got a lot of earthworks, a lot of serpent mounds. You have a lot of Hopewell Indian mounds, culture, influence of the Shawnee region. You have crop formations that pop up from time to time, UFO sightings, Bigfoot sightings, sightings of strange green lizard people, green-skinned children coming out of caves. We have an entourage of that.
The green-skinned children, I thought that tale was from Germany or someplace.
Every small area, or well, there's a lot of German influence in Ohio as well. For example, Beaver, Ohio, has a strong German influence. The Hammersteins, there was another family that lived there that was German or Dutch, but they, of course, passed those stories on, and it leaked into this
Sure.
region and became part of the culture.
Well, I'll put it this way: my bank is the German American Bank,
Mm-hmm.
and they're based in the town of Jasper. If us Angles pronounce it, it's actually Jasper if you're German
Jasper.
or Dutch. And we have all kinds, Elberfeld, and a lot of little place names that just don't fit in an
Mhm.
English settlement.
Yeah, that wouldn't a lot like Circleville, Ohio. All the road names have like exceptionally long names added to them, like it's something hyphen something hyphen something. And one of the roads is Uber Hitler Road because
Oh
allegedly,
my.
yeah, allegedly the family that was of Adolf Hitler during World War II wanted to separate themselves from him so badly that they actually migrated here, and changed their name to Uber in order to fit in, but they wanted to keep their lineage because prior to Adolf Hitler, the name Hitler itself was well respected throughout Germany. So they did it
And also,
Uber Hitler Road.
interesting stuff.
Fun
I was
facts. We could
just
win on
the other
Jeopardy.
day, I
Come
was
on.
watching a video about the Nazi bell and all that stuff, which was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Mike, I hear a question coming out of you. I'm psychic, you know.
Well, what I'm very interested in hearing more about this banshee. To tell you the truth, like you were saying when it sort of dropped, that banshees generally do only manifest as a sound, but they have been seen, especially in Irish folklore, Gaelic folklore. So I was just curious as to the supposed appearance
Mm-hmm.
that Neal has heard described by witnesses of this banshee.
I know I've been tracking banshee sightings for a while. I myself am a concoction of Irish, Cherokee, Shawnee, so I have a natural blood lineage interest in it anyway. But
Yeah.
my grandmother had told me stories of seeing banshees before, seeing a banshee before her best friend, who at the age of 11 had become a victim of drowning during a flash flood, and it washed out her entire valley region. And she saw a banshee as the storm came in, crying and looking down the hillside at that small little village that was washed out by the flood. And
So she was looking down the hillside. That's
Mhm.
interesting because you know what the name means, right? One of the hill.
hello,
Banshee means woman of the hill.
mm-hmm.
So she was looking down the
Down the
hillside.
valley side.
I wonder if she was something attached to that place, that general location. But I know that generally the banshee is traditionally considered to be attached to a certain family.
Mm-hmm.
Certain families they will have this thing attached to their business more or less. So it's unusual that people are just seeing them. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Without that connection.
and normally, from a lot of stories in the past, if you see a banshee, then chances are you are about to die.
Do ex-wives count?
I was going to go that route, but I have a great relationship with my wife, so I'm going to skip that.
Okay. Just
Do any
wondering.
of you have ex-wives?
No comment. We don't want any banshees to sit in ours tonight.
I have a wonderful relationship with each of my ex-wives. Two of them I never see.
No wonder it's wonderful then.
The other one I see often, so, and it's going quite well.
Now, wait a minute. You said two you never see, and the other one you see often. That's 3 ex-wives.
Correct.
Wow.
Moving
Some people
along.
never learn.
Three-time loser.
Some people never learn. including me.
Well, you know, three-time loser, they turn you into a lifer, so. Third time's charm either way.
Yeah, my wife and I are going on 11 years of marriage.
Well, good. That's great. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. A lot of people are like, well, that's not really anything. Well, I was 26 when I got married, so, you know, I'm a father of a soon-to-be 5-year-old and a soon-to-be 2-year-old, and I'll be 38 in July, so I'm tired all the time.
I wonder why.
Mm-hmm.
So these banshees that you've seen, how are they described? Are they described as old hags or young women or what? What's the usual description that you get?
Prior to their scream, shriek, or cry, they appear as a fair-skinned maiden, I guess I could say, a very attractive red-haired woman. And then when something catastrophic is about to happen, or when they get ready to do the shriek, they turn into what looks like a kitchen witch, or like you said, the old hag. And their garment goes from like something of pleasure to a dark cloak, much like what the Grim Reaper type character would wear.
Well, do you ever get any description of what's called I believe it's the banh mi, which is it's a variant of the same beam, but washing bloody garments or that type of thing, usually before something really violent happens. Have you ever heard any descriptions of that?
I've heard of those appearing more in dream sequences than really manifesting to the naked eye. Normally, those are attributed to where people dream about snakes. When you dream about snakes, supposedly someone dies, or other people say when you dream of snakes, that means someone is about to be born. So it depends on, it's like more like a colloquialism, depending on the region where you live.
In the Gaelic folklore, they're considered to be two aspects of the same beam. One is just a general death portent, and the other is the portent of like a violent death or a battle or a murder or something. So I was just curious as to...
Like each time my wife was pregnant, she would keep having this reoccurring dream of a pale-faced, stringy-haired child with like no eyes and the sockets, just gaping holes, and an elongated mouth, almost like a Dementor from Harry Potter that's trying to suck her life force out of her body. And she kept having this dream over and over again, and then she would give birth to our child, and it would go away. And then when she was...
But you know, Neal, you think it goes away until college comes around.
Right. And then there's the college with the gaping eyes sucking out of your life savings for your college because you go to college.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. We appear to be...
the family life is a tough thing to balance for a writer.
Oh, absolutely.
It's even a tough thing to balance for
anybody right now.
Yeah, somebody that doesn't have family like me. But nevertheless, it's interesting that one can manage the time and juggle everything and get something to the printer eventually.
And not only that, my wife works full time as well. She's a school teacher. She teaches 6th grade reading, which comes in handy for me because they always invite me to come in and talk to the kids and read to the kids too. But most of I travel a lot, so I'm speaking at churches, I'm speaking at conventions, festivals, and doing book signings all the time. So yeah, I always take the holiday season off to put family first.
That you know, in your part of the country, that you can talk about these topics at a church. You know, in the South where I am, you know, you talk about this kind of thing, or even near a church, and you know, you might wake up with I don't know,
a cross burning in the
so well, I won't
that
go
or
that far, but just say
tied to a stake, being burned. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Southern Baptist, I take it.
Well, just whatever. I mean, down here, paranormal is not something people like to talk about, unfortunately. And of course, they do talk about it, but then they segment things. Well, I guess everybody does that.
They talk about it. They just make sure nobody but you is listening.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Well,
But yeah, so yeah, it's good that you can do that.
yeah, I've actually been invited to several, and I've done presentations and sold books after doing the presentation, because it's so easy to tie in one's Christian faith into the paranormal.
Yes, it is.
Because what's more paranormal than the birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ?
Or the various things that he did while he was here.
Precisely, the miracles. So
Yeah,
that in
yeah,
itself, it's all basis of faith, just like the paranormal and the supernatural. There are so many people
Absolutely.
who don't believe in it or subscribe to it, but once you're touched by it, you can't help but believe it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the thing is that there's an awful lot of things that people think are ancient, strange, or new mysteries. They're
yeah.
all to be found in that particular religious tradition, going back, to not just the Judaic tradition, but earlier traditions ancestral to that one. So yeah, it's all very old stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't even consider the fact that Elijah his circumstance was a classic case of alien abduction. He was visited by these strange beings who appeared in a strange vessel of ambient light. Most people would say, well, they were just angels. Well, they visited him repeatedly, and other people saw them come to him, and they were described as these enigmatic beings in foreign clothing, foreign garments. And eventually Elijah ascended into the skies and was gobbled up by this vessel of light.
Right.
I mean, it's a classic ascension, abduction case.
Well, you have that, but you also have even earlier Enoch.
Oh, yeah.
The same thing happened, and then later, of course, even before the resurrection, there was the transfiguration, where when Christ went up the hill, and the white cloud came down glowing, and as he ascended the hill, two figures came out, who were assumed to be Moses and Elijah.
Yeah.
And they were glowing, and then he started sort of letting off the same radiance, and he went into the cloud, and then he came back. So, it's a very old phenomenon, I should say, and it's been around for a very long time. And people it's all a matter of interpretation.
Completely.
So the interesting thing to me about finding all these connections, whether it's to religious or other, I shouldn't say religious in general, to Christian, or whether it's to Native American or to other forms of faith and whatnot, they have all these things in common. All these faiths have all this stuff in common.
Yeah, completely.
Yes, they do. They definitely do. As you know from my book, Caverns, Causes, and Concealed Creatures, that's one of the things that once you start investigating stuff, you look for patterns, and you'll find those patterns, and they are everywhere in there. Every tradition, every folk tradition, every religion, every mythological cycle, which is just somebody's religion. All the same things appear again and again. So obviously, there's something going on.
There's several books, of course, thanks to Constantine and the first pope, that were removed from the Old and New Testament prior to its separation from Old and New Covenant, and buried in the middle of the Egyptian desert, only to be discovered, along with the Dead Sea Scrolls, no more than 80 years ago.
Right.
And why would they feel the need to hide those
books? That's one of my
books?
favorites of that lot. But notice that Book of Jasher and the Book of Jubilees both were removed from the Old Testament, but they are both mentioned in the Old Testament, where someone will say, as was written in the Book of Jasher, or as it is said in the Book of Jubilees.
In the Book of Enoch.
Well, those were redacted, by somebody back, very early on. But it's like Christ and his disciples, half the Book of Jude, half the Epistle of Jude, Jesus himself, John in Revelation, they all quote directly from the Book of Enoch, which was written 300 years before Christ. Now, if they didn't consider the Book of Enoch to be inspired or whatever, then where are they quoting from it?
Yeah.
But then somebody comes along and they say, well, this book raised too many questions, talking about fallen angels coming down to earth and mating with women and making hybrids and all this other stuff. We got to take this out. This is causing too much confusion. Well, what they've done is they have taken out something that helped the whole thing make more sense.
Oh, yeah.
A major part of the storyline is missing.
Because so many people have said to me, well, there's too many inconsistencies in the scriptures. There's too many contradictions. That's the reason why.
That is the reason.
Mm-hmm.
And not just that, but things that are attributed, for instance, to Yahweh, oh, how brutal and all this kind of stuff. Well, they don't understand. For instance, if they knew that those books had been left in, Jasher, Jubilees, Enoch, things like that, they would know why he said, what this God, this being, told those people, when you go into this promised land, which is, I promised you a long time ago, now there are these giants living there, and they're cannibals, okay?
Yeah.
Go in there and kill them all. Kill all of them. He said, kill every living thing. And so everybody's like, oh, that's so bloodthirsty. What they don't understand is this was a genetic
abomination.
Pollution, yeah, an abomination.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they went in, they only killed the male warriors. They did not complete what they were told to do. They let the women and the children survive. And, and so people don't know what the whole story really is here. They don't quite. They really don't.
Well, the other thing is they didn't kill the animals. Didn't kill the.
Yeah.
And they got dressed down for that.
Yes.
He said kill everything.
Yeah.
So they had to go back and kill everything.
And they took they took slaves. They took captives. And that was not what they had been told to do. And the reason was because you'll find that later, after that, another few generations down the road, here you got these guys called the Giants of Gath, of whom one was known as Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
And David had to first kill Goliath, and then he had to kill all of his brothers. Of course, Rick, as you know, they all had 6 fingers, 6 toes, and some say that, I believe that they had double rows of teeth. So there you go again. Here it is again, the same theme from all over the world, right here in the Bible, with these brutal, brutish, large, what's a good word here, tyrannical beings that are having to be dealt with later because early on, the guys working for Joshua didn't go do what they were told to do.
Right.
And see, people misinterpret that because they don't know all these things about Nephilim and Anakim and fallen angels meeting with women and all this stuff. They don't know it. It's mentioned in Genesis 6. It's mentioned in the book of Numbers. But other than that, it's not mentioned in a lot of places.
Not at all.
Because it's been removed.
And of course, the stories of the seraphim, they become more popularized in the book of Revelation. And the description of the seraphim matches to a T the description of the Mothman. So to me, the Mothman seems to be more of a harbinger of sorrow, a warning to those that imminent doom is about to take place, like the breaking of the seal.
Well, even going back further, as you know that, for instance, Abraham came out of Ur, which was Sumer, more or less, and they had a tradition in the Sumerian tradition of a being very similar called the Utuku. And the Utuku was a very dark and dire winged being from the underworld. And, its main job was to come and find sacrifices and take them back. And the sacrifices usually consisted of the liver and blood and things of this nature. And you still find those connections today to strange beings.
Cattle mutilations.
Livers missing, exsanguination of animals and even people sometimes. And, even if you read Keel's stuff about the Mothman flap, the first big one, there were a lot of strange things going on when they were seeing this being actually taking dogs and taking dead dogs from the side of the road and everything. It's as if they're not going to get it by sacrifice anymore, they're going to find a way to get it.
Yeah. You are so correct on that.
Yeah, just a thought, but yeah, that's the way it seems. But yeah, you read in the book of Daniel, for instance, where Daniel interprets Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and Nebuchadnezzar's having a dream, which, according to Daniel, from the God of the creator of the universe interpretation here, the dream of the statue made of the various materials is a history of the human empires throughout all of human history, past and present and future. and he explains it to him, and he tells him that, when it comes to the clay and the iron mixed together, it's supposed to be the last empire on Earth.
Right.
And he says, as you saw the miry clay mixed with the iron, the literal translation is, so shall they, whoever they are, try to mix themselves with the seed of men, but it will not hold together. So, it's all in there, and people just have to look for it. So people talk about alien abduction and hybridization, all sorts of stuff. There's nothing new to it.
No.
It's all very, very ancient.
And every culture has pointed something out pertaining to it. Every major religion.
Yeah, it does. Whether in the Orient, it's the Dragon Kings. The Dragon Kings under the earth, or in India, it's the Naga, who are always coming and abducting human women, or even female Naginis, coming after young men, things of this nature. It's all the same stuff. It's just, the masks change, but the activity is the same.
Right.
Patterns, right?
Yeah.
Everything goes full circle.
It really does.
So getting back to the Ohio Valley and the cultures, the pre-Columbian cultures in particular,
Yeah.
the Adena people. And we talked to Fred Zimmerman last week. One of his books is entitled The Nephilim Chronicles, or Nephilim Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
And his research, or his conclusions from his research, indicate that the Adena people were the Nephilim, that they were tall, polydactyl, polydental, or hyperdental, and they built mounds and they traded in copper and all this stuff. Have you ever looked into that kind of stuff?
I have actually. There is a known, even prior to the Adena people, the Adena allegedly is a branch off of this giant race of Indian, one of which was sighted during the blizzard of '78 in downtown Chillicothe, when a sheriff's deputy who is now retired and begged me to not tell his real name, which I agreed to do, was driving down the street, making sure that people were not on the street, and the blizzard was coming down hard, and he was coming to the intersection of 2nd and Paint. And Rick probably knows this, that Paint Street, that entire intersection, all the way down to Water Street, was a plethora of mounds. And
Yes, it was.
in the 1800s, they decimated it. So when he's driving through here, his light casts across the alleyway, and he sees the outline of a very tall Indian walking through the snow, disappearing into the night. And he ran down the alley chasing after it, put his car in park, of course, ran down the alley, was chasing after it, and it disappeared into the darkness, of course. But that's one instance where I've heard stories of tall or giant Indian races within this region. And when they were digging out make the pipeway for the new 207 connector that takes you from 104 past the prisons out here onto 23 North and to Columbus, they were digging out the road for that area, and they supposedly dug up an area where it was like sacred ground, and they found over five to eight tall or giant bodies, skeleton structures. And it was immediately shut down for like 5 months, and they had this team come in and excavate, and no one has heard another thing about it since then.
You just touched on a major topic that comes up here a lot, about these vanishing giant skeletons, especially the ones with the double rows of teeth, and the occasional horns and the extra fingers. They are discovered, and yes, people do come and take them away. And it's as if they're so desperate to cover this up. it's almost as if they're going out of their way to make it obvious that something's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other end of that stick, I actually heard of two cases, well, kind of recently, the last few months, two separate cases from people who didn't know each other about these giant skeletons that had been in private collections, and they simply disappeared. Somebody came into the house and stole them.
Oh my!
It makes me wonder if it's some scientific organization or a rogue organization that's owned and operated by either the church and.
I think it's a status quo thing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. In fact, I saw today some other information. I believe it was Kevin Smith, who is a friend of mine. He pointed out that there's something going on right now where they claim to have discovered the legendary Mayan king's remains, Pakal. Is that how you say his name? And rumor has it from reliable sources they found this mummy, and it does not conform to a Mayan type, but it is allegedly him. It was in his sarcophagus, and it was 9 feet tall, and it has disappeared, or all information has been shut down by the Mexican government. They're not releasing any more information about it.
Okay, it goes a little bit beyond that. Actually, there were several skeletons in the tomb. There were 3 giant skeletons and 1 normal-sized prepubescent female human, but 8'4" for the largest and 7'8", I think, for the shortest of the 3 giants. All were polydactyl. Most with 2 of them had 7 fingers on each hand. The other one had 6. But and of course they all disappeared in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about 7 fingers and Pakal is the one who supposedly taught the Mayans how to count, do astronomy, and do all these scientific wonders, right?
He's also the one that basically predicted the whole 2012 thing. That's kind of laid at his feet, more or less. He worked out the astrological cycle. Yeah.
It's laid at his feet, but that calendar existed for 3,000 years before he ever got there.
Yeah.
Anyway, the base 20 system. You guys ever heard of a counting method called Chitzenbach?
I have.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
You can count to 99 with your 10 fingers, right? Well, if you had 7 fingers on each hand, you could count to 20 on one hand. But you can't do it with 5 fingers, or even 6. So it's one of those little bitty things that says that's probably a true story.
Yeah. So what did you hear? I mean, basically the rumor I've seen is that Pakal's skeleton disappeared. There were anomalies in terms of the skull structure, the height, and a number of other things. I heard 9 feet. I don't know, but I didn't hear about the others. But also there might have been a Caucasian aspect to these skeletons, which of course would tie in with the various creations.